Okay, it is 7 o'clock, so I think the number of people here, we should get started, I believe. Can we have an attendance, please?
Sure. Egan here. Hoffenberg is absent. Mosier is absent. O'Connor.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Wenting.
Here.
And Pace.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, excellent. I assume everyone has read the minutes and any changes? Yes, go ahead.
I move we accept the minutes as submitted.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. Excellent. Okay, so tonight we have 3 cases. First case is Planning Commission Case 281. It's a text amendment allowing hard surface sports courts as permitted use in the outdoor district, the Park District of Grange, the open space district, sorry. That is the case. Staff, is there a quick rundown for us?
Sure, happy to do so. I know the Park District has a presentation, so I won't belabor it, but just real briefly, the open space zoning district is one of 2 specialty districts in the zoning code. It and the IE, Institutional Buildings District, are intended to accommodate those kinds of uses that really don't fit neatly into commercial, industrial, or residential property classifications. So the OS zoning district applies to almost all of the Park District's properties. 2 of the properties are institutional buildings, as well as the LTE soccer fields. So that comprises all of the OS district in LaGrange. As you'll see in the staff memo, there are 3 permitted uses listed in the OS district, as well as 5 special use listings. So what the Park District is presenting today is a text amendment to change active recreation areas owned by an Illinois unit of local government, such as basketball, tennis, handball, racket, and similar courts and skate parks, and change that use from a special use to a permitted use. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the staff memo, either now or after the Park District makes their presentation. Staff is recommending approval of the text amendment.
Okay, Commissioners, is there any questions for staff at this point?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and are the special use permits contemplated for the other facilities? Yeah, because I see the open space district includes only properties owned and operated by the Park District and the Lyons Township High School District. This is on page 2, sort of 2/3 of the way down. Aside from Gordon Park, which has a special use permit for the band shell and skate park at Gordon Park, it says no open space zone properties have an existing special use permit because they exist prior to the regulation, so that any modification would trigger the requirement.
That is correct.
Which is one of the reasons why we're here tonight.
That's absolutely correct. This language was added to the code in 2013 as part of a larger set of zoning code amendments. I did review the file. I can't really determine why specifically hard surface sport courts were considered to be a special use permit, but other things like splash pads, baseball fields, soccer fields, all of those things were put into the permitted use category.
Thank you.
Okay. More questions? If there's no questions, I guess if there's a presentation, and before you present, and if there's anyone else that needs to would like to testify today, I can swear you in. Do you promise? Do you promise that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you for having us here tonight. We're excited to present. I'm here with Patty King from White & Company. She's the Associate Principal Senior Landscape Architect. We've been doing a lot of work with them. I'm Jenny Bechtold. I'm the Executive Director from the Park District of LaGrange. So as Charity mentioned, we're looking to move our hard surface sports courts from a special use permit to a permanent use. Hopefully this will streamline the process, and some of the benefits of this is to simplify development, improve recreation areas for the community, reduce any unnecessary redundancies and costs. We go through a comprehensive community engagement process ourselves, so to reduce reduce those redundancies, expand community access to hard surface sports courts, and aligns with our community needs and inputs. So I'm sure everybody's seen this, right? You're all residents of Grange. We did a thorough community engagement with our park improvement process, which resulted in a successful referendum with a 74 approval rate. So I just want to focus on the special use permit, how it does require us to come present the public hearing, which we do significant amount of community engagement. So these plans started back in 2022 with the comprehensive master plan. Then staff took it, looked at the feasibility of implementing it, started working with White and Company, brought on Beyond Base to help with the community engagement, formed a task force, which had several meetings in early 2024 to help develop the plans, had over a half dozen community input meetings. We're still having community input meetings. Even for our playgrounds, we just had a community input meeting, which is a permitted use. So we go through the processes very intensely with our residents. We had 5 direct mail pieces. We did a community-wide survey just to ensure we were on the right track. And then we made adjustments based on all that feedback. And our referendum did pass with 74% approval rating. With that said, one of the most high priorities for our residents is new or improved courts, multi-sport courts, basketball courts, tennis courts. That came in at 56% on a Likert scale of 4 to 5. So that was the #1 priority, which right now is in the special use permit category, which again entails more work. We can't get it done as quickly. It takes more tax dollars. So we'd like to move it. And you'll see pickleball courts is at 37% in the second tier. So these courts are very important to our residents. And just for a current inventory, we have hard surface sports courts. We have 8.5 basketball courts, 8 tennis courts, 3 handball courts. And then our sports fields, which are permitted use, we have a higher number of those. Soccer fields at 7, t-ball fields at 4, baseball fields at 4, softball fields at 2, and volleyball fields at 3. And those can just go through the permitted use process. So we'd like to form some consistency with being able to do all of these items under the permitted use. We appreciate the village reaching out to other communities. And it does appear that Countryside, Grange Park, and Brookfield all utilize the permit use for hard surface sports courts. And so in conclusion, we would respectfully request approval of the amendment allowing active recreation areas, the hard surface courts, to be permitted use in open space districts. The proposed text amendment does align with LaGrange zoning code and comprehensive plan goals. And it supports public health, efficient use of parks and facility, reduces those redundancies, and adapts to community needs over time. So it gives us the ability to really act quickly, and if we have a minor change, really take care of it in an economical fashion. And this change would streamline improvements to public parks while maintaining responsible oversight. So thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. I do have a quick question, just to kind of.
Is your mic on, Madam Chairman?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Anyway, so if it becomes a permitted use of all the hard courts, what is the instrument that keeps it from going wild? Like you're putting up a big basketball court and all of a sudden it's twice the size basketball court. Those kind of things.
Yeah, we keep the courts within reason to our parks. We would never want an oversized court within a smaller park. So we use dimensions that are consistent with the footprint of the park. Our residents have made it very clear that they don't want an abundance of asphalt or concrete, so we keep that in mind too. And we find that balance. So I think we have a good relationship with the village, and they know that we are listening to our residents, and they don't want oversized courts.
But it's nothing written down, or there's no rule. It's just your discretion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Commissioners?
If I may
Sure.
add to that, just like any other property owner in LaGrange, the park district is subject to the village's standard permitting requirements. There are setbacks in the open space district. It's typically 20 feet for most improvements. There's lot coverage, grading requirements, our standard lighting and noise regulations would apply. So just like any other property in the village, they're subject to all of our typical standards.
Okay. That's the answer I'm looking for. Commissioners, questions?
That answered my question.
Oh, there you go. Joe O'Connor?
Yeah, I just had a question as to, just help me understand the problem here. So is it that it's a lot of paperwork or hassle, or is it, that you think that people might not approve it? I mean, I'm a big user of sports courts, and I love it. And, I was thinking, is there a way just to avoid the text amendment and just, submit the request and certainly there's a lot of support for it. I mean, why is it that we have to do this route?
In my experience, this is kind of an unorthodox zoning code, having a carved surface court in a special use permit category. Mostly it is permitted throughout other communities, as you see with Grange Park, Countryside, and Brookfield.
Yeah.
It's a redundancy in taxpayer dollars by having to go through the public hearing process twice, or the community engagement hearing twice. So we are utilizing more tax dollars, your time here, my time here, White's time here. So the process that we go through to get approval from our residents is very thorough. And so we would hope that the village would understand that we don't need to come here, because we've already done all those direct mails, all those surveys, all that information was obtained. We still do, as Charity mentioned, have to go through that permitted process. So it is still going through the proper requirements, setbacks, MWRD permitting if required. It takes a lot longer. So this is going to add on 2 to 3 months to our process, which then pushes back our timeline. We are trying to meet spend downs with our referendum right now, and with these additional add-ons to having to come to these meetings, it pushes back our timeline, and it doesn't allow us to take advantage of any positive arbitrage on our bond rate. So there's a lot of moving pieces with it.
Yeah, and I would push back and say that, I think that because there's been so much work done by the Park District, that, there's a clear mandate, and that it would be an easier process, I think, for review by this commission. I don't know, those are my thoughts.
Okay. Fair enough. Commissioners, anyone else?
I don't know if this is better for you or Charity, but what is the Western Springs? I see it's a conditional use. What does that entail? What does that mean?
So it's comparable to a special use permit. Their parks are not in a separate district like ours are. Like our parks are all in an open space district, similar to Countryside and Brookfield. They have specialty zoning districts for these types of uses. In Western Springs, their parks are in residential districts. And so, because obviously it's not residential use, it requires a special use permit in that residential district.
And then the existing, getting to the earlier questions, the existing hardcore surfaces that were there as a matter of right before they were required to be special use, was there any review of the history? Why was the code amended to require those to be a special use?
I can't conclude. I've reviewed the minutes of the Plan Commission and the Village Board meeting. I've reviewed the staff memos. It's not clear to me how these ended up as a special use while the others ended up as a permitted use. It seems that most of the conversation at the time was all around the splash pad and the band shell. Typically, when you're looking at what is a permitted use and what is a special use, you're looking at things that in the special use category are more likely to have external impacts, more noise, more traffic, more lights. So from my perspective as a planner, things like the band shell that you'll see next make sense as a special use because they have higher potential for off-site noise that might need to be mitigated through some kind of additional plans or conditions of the special use permit. Versus the way that the code treats these various different sports fields and courts, you could have facilities that accommodate hundreds of people cheering for organized sports games on grass courts, and that's a permitted use. And you could have one half-court basketball court that can't be moved 5 feet because it requires a special use permit to do so.
So for those courts though, is there for lights to be installed to use later? I mean, is that a separate process, or would that be Would by approving this, would the park district have a permitted right to put up lights, for instance?
So they have lights now for,
Well, I'm saying around, like, if they build a court, put lights around whatever the court, like a tennis courts commonly have lights, basketball courts could. Pickleball.
so could baseball diamonds and soccer fields. So I think those same things apply. I think there's a lot of those kinds of considerations that my recommendation would be that we look at when we're doing the zoning code rewrite to ensure that we have the appropriate kinds of lighting requirements in place for the open space district to prevent spillage to other properties. But we do have in our current lighting standards, lights are not allowed to create glare on surrounding properties, and then there are photometric requirements at the property line. So if the park district, regardless of whether it's a permitted or special use, was coming in to install lights for a new facility, they would have to demonstrate that they can comply with those standards.
Sure. Commissioner Egan.
Okay, so following up on all these other questions that were very good because they answered a lot of mine. So can you walk me through what the process is? Let's say the park district is considering installing pickleball courts, which, I feel bad for the people that live next to the pickleball courts on Ogden, where they're right next to their house. Well, what is the process that the park district goes through? I know you collected a lot of data and sent out a lot of things. Is there a special hearing that would allow people to come and listen to your proposal of, okay, we're going to put pickleball courts at Gilbert, Wyola, and Gordon, and give them an opportunity to present their opinion? I mean, my opinion is that in Wyola it's kind of too small for a pickleball court, so where would anyone have the opportunity to voice those opinions?
Yeah, they can voice those opinions. So when we're making improvements, we have community input meetings based on whatever the scale is. So if it was, for example, with Wyola, we're not putting a pickleball court there. It is a neighborhood park. We wouldn't do that. But when we did Wyola, we had community engagement meetings. So we had 3. So we had one to ask what they wanted, one to propose. They proposed, then we came back with the changes that they presented to us. Our board meetings are always an opportunity for residents to come and speak to us. They can always email us. If they can't make those meetings, and those can go to the public record, just like the village, right? You can read those statements into the record. So yes, again, community engagement is something we do for every project that we do. We would never just spring something on residents. If there's a change, like with the referendum, we're looking at some potential changes. We've mailed those residents that are directly affected. We've sent out social media. So we're very thorough with our communication on projects. Whether they read it or not is a different question. But we do our best to notify. We'll put yard signs in the parks because the users of those parks will find out about the processes that way more often than finding something in the mail. So we go to great lengths to notify our residents.
Any questions, commissioners?
I just go back to, we're all very reasonable people here, and I love handball. I'd love to see a revival of handball, and I was just thinking that not to belabor this point, but why wouldn't you have very reasonable plans? Just present them, and I think that there would be a very reasonable outcome without a lot of delay. To your point about if you're going to move something 5 feet, that's a lot of hassle. Well, again, we're reasonable people, and I don't think that would be a difficult thing to get approved. So I'm just kind of curious about the whole, why do we need to have this when, I don't see the problem.
I guess in my view, maybe it was something overlooked when we wrote the original rules. So it clearly seems that these type of functions should be kind of permitted and at the discretion of the park district, really. That's just the way I feel, that's all. So anyone else chime in?
Well, as I understand it, the permitted use still requires you to get a permit. You still have to apply for any modifications to under control of the regulations.
Correct. It still requires a building permit and compliance with all of the standard village code requirements. It does not require a discretionary review process involving public hearings, which is the distinction.
Does that help alleviate your fears, or?
Yes. I mean, I guess, yeah, having two separate vetting sessions, I could see how it could slow things down. So it's not just a unilateral decision, it's the whole process. So, yeah, I see that.
Okay, great. I'm very sympathetic to the argument about delay, because I think Park District over the years has had a number of ideas they would like to implement, and it gets bogged down, like that parking lot next to the East Avenue. How long did that take? For a variety of reasons, but
not because of us.
Definitely not because of us. But it's like, it's just one more, obstacle, to deal with. And, they're a public body that's answerable to the public, and also has to go through the permitting process anyway. So.
Yeah, and I should mention that all of our plans are approved by our board. So it's not just staff making the decisions either. The board is the final say in all of our plans. And there's an additional cost. Every special use permit is $2,500 plus staff time, plus White's time. So it's a double cost to our residents by having to do a second process to our process.
Fair enough. At this point, Glenn, did you have something?
Yeah, I think that further is that it not just is going to apply if they have to get a special use for something new. It's if they do any changes to the existing grandfathered in places, which is where you suddenly cascade with the laundry list of places that they'd have to work on that they're planning on doing now. So I'm in sympathy with the change.
At this point, we have proposed text amendment here on page 5, leading to page 6. The staff has proposed if we can take a second to look that over and see if this is adequate or if there's changes that need to be done. Give yourself a moment. Is pickleball one word or 2 words?
Good question. I'm not sure.
Not sure? Okay.
I promise to look it up.
That's fine. Is this acceptable? Are there changes? Mr. Schultz?
If I may, the including but not limited to is always the refuge of scoundrels, but at the same time, is it too restrictive? Because how far do we want to go? I don't have a problem with it. I'm just thinking, naming the names, something else may come up. But the one that would get me is on the next page, the 8105 special uses. I don't know if we want to just leave it blank under there. Do we have to put something such as reserved in that section?
Since if we cross out A.
Yes, when we do the actual ordinance language, we'll renumber everything else so that what was B becomes A.
No, I don't follow. Is that you're going to keep section 8?
So 8105 is the list of special uses. There are currently about 5 things in that list now.
Oh, so this is not the sole
So this
entry.
is not the full extent of it. The page 2 shows the full list of all the special uses in the OS district. What we would do is strike A and then re-letter the rest
Okay,
of them
good.
in the ordinance. So
Good.
one quick
Yes.
point of order comment. We did take testimony from the applicant, but I don't know if we asked if anyone else in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That is my oversight. Anyone else interested in the word? We can
Just in case.
go ahead. Thank you. Okay, the legal side of the table, is there any questions on the wording? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Glenn. Okay, so
Motion?
I would like a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the text amendment as presented.
For a second,
Second.
can we have roll call, please?
Schwartz,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
O'Connor,
Aye.
Wenting,
Aye.
and Pace.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. Moving on now, since we may have someone similar doing another presentation. Okay, second case now is Plan Commission Case 209, Special Use Amendment, Site Plan Approval, Design Review Permit for the Gordon Park Fan Shop, Park District of Grange. I think perhaps a presentation is required for this one.
So yes, again, the Park District has prepared a presentation, so I'm just going to provide a brief overview. A little bit of background, the existing band shell at Gordon Park, which is a 16.4 acre park, features, in addition to the band shell, splash pad, baseball, softball fields, several soccer fields, a skating park. The band shell special use permit was approved in 2013. Along with an overall site plan. The Park District is now proposing a significant enlargement of the band shell in generally the same location. So that is why we're here today for the special use amendment. Also, under the code, it does require a design review permit. It is a bit of an unusual design review permit request in that most of our guidelines in the design review overlay are really tailored to buildings, not a kind of single purpose structure like a band shell. So as you notice in the staff memo, there's not a significant amount of analysis on the design and
This is the
structure.
Forgive me if I ask, I thought I read that, is this a standard item? As
Yes,
it
it's
is?
sort of like an off-the-shelf design.
It is a stock band shell. Okay, thank you.
Yep. As the Park District will go into, the band shell's proposed to operate 7 days a week, generally between the hours of 6 a.m. and dusk. The Park District has provided their operational plan as part of their application, which is outlined more in the standards for special use approval in the staff memo. As noted in the staff memo, if the Plan Commission determines that the standards have been met and intends to recommend approval to the village board, staff would recommend two conditions. One is that the Park District maintain landscaping. They are proposing to do landscaping around the band shell, but that they would maintain, as part of the special use permit, landscaping along the sides and rear at a minimum height of 8 feet, sufficient to provide all-season screening. Currently, the band shell has arborvitae planted around it. The Park District has said that they're intending to do something similar. And then that any future modifications to the operational plan that would impact the hours of operation, use of amplified sound, or frequency of rentals to outside entities would require them to come back to the village for approval for those modifications. So those would be the two conditions that staff would recommend if the Plan Commission finds that the standards have been met. And unless you have other questions for me, I will turn it over to the Park District.
So Shereen?
I do have one question. So Exhibit B that's attached to the ordinance that was passed, I think in 2013, whenever it was passed, 2013, will that be incorporated into this new special use? It's got all of the requirements for the operation plan.
Exhibit B in the Park District's current application? Or
No,
exhibit B
in the ordinance that was passed in 2013, it's part of the packet. It's, describe it. Just one second. I'm just getting to that page. Oh, yeah, that's the next page, though. The next page. I guess, yeah, it's Exhibit B. I don't know if it's.
It's like the backing pages.
Yeah.
Read this.
with the site plan. So we would be approving a new site plan based on our current plan.
I think all the operation hours
Yeah,
are.
it's all of the
Exhibit.
requirements of the,
Early morning program.
That's our exhibit, Charity.
That's
Oh, sorry.
related to the new plan. That's the current operational plan. So it
Right.
could be that that's all included in the special use ordinance.
Okay.
It could be that we extract just elements of that
Okay.
to include in the special use ordinance, but that is part and parcel of their application.
Oh, I see, okay. I wasn't understanding the exhibits, okay. Great, thank you.
More questions for staff? Not, if we can have the presentation. Director Bechtold, I believe that's you again.
Do you need a,
We've already spoken on this.
if you, Patty, Kate
Oh, sure.
is going to be joining us, so.
Sure. And again, I'll have to swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do. Okay, so we're here for a special use permit for Gordon Park Van Shell expansion, which we're very excited about. I'm Jenny Bechtold, this is Patty King. So the Park District is requesting an enlargement of our van shell at Gordon Park. It's going to be anchored in the same location with similar open sides and rear design. So in your packet and up here on the screen to the right, you'll see the current van shell, and then below it you'll see the proposed van shell. The current van shell is 180 square feet, 12 feet tall, so the new van shell is a little bit larger, 2,000 square feet and 24 feet tall. You can see on the left-hand side where it's going to be going, and I do have, I brought up our plan again because we did present this within our proposed park improvements for 2024 and the
Can you
referendum.
speak more into the mic?
Oh, sure, sorry. So here's a larger version of the plan of Gordon Park, and exactly you can see where the van shell will be going. Again, it is in the current location of the smaller van shell at the present time. Again, I won't go into detail, but just to reiterate, we do a significant amount of community engagement, which included this van shell. So all the same steps that I mentioned in the previous presentation. And I want to point out in our survey, the original survey to the residents in April of 2024 did put in, if you see, in the second bottom line, halfway over to the right, you'll see van shell in there. We did put that directly in the ballot question in the survey. It wasn't in the ballot question on the actual ballot, but you'll see the results was pretty significant, 73% yes, definitely yes, or probably yes, with the mention of the van shell in there. And again, in the summary of the results, that van shell came up in our second tier at 36% as a high priority for the residents on a Likert scale of 4 and 5. So going through the application, there's no undue adverse impact. The minimal impact on adjacent properties and public welfare. It is 210 feet from Grange apartments, and again, we will do the screening with the landscaping. We will comply with the village noise ordinance for noise and noise management. And amplified events are limited to quarterly, so within that operational plan that we put together, we really outlined what parameters we will follow. And lighting and special event requirements, so there is no permanent lighting on the van shell, there is electric, and any temporary lighting, again, must comply with glare and illumination standards. And any rentals with amplified sound, which I think we put in the, operation plan would be a potential of 12 annually. They must require the village permits. No interference with surrounding development, so the van shell will not dominate or interfere with any surrounding properties, again, going in its current location. And the proposed surrounding opening is currently used for community events. So at Gordon Park, we have large events, we have recreation programs. So this is consistent with what we're already doing there. And again, the landscaping will help mitigate aesthetics and sound, hiding garbage cans or electrical cables during these events. Adequate public facilities. So right now there already is infrastructure in place, and it'll be supported by those existing infrastructures and restrooms and utilities. For larger events already, we move in portlets, portable restrooms as needed. And then when we do have those larger events, just like we have in the past, we work with the village to ensure there's enough staff, parking attendants, crossing guards to keep that safe. And in their memo, the village does agree that there is adequate public facilities to support the development. No traffic congestion. There will be no significant increase. I know the operation manual says that will be, it's open daily, but we're not going to be having events daily. And it will be monitored by staff to ensure that it's not being utilized out of purpose by someone who shouldn't be using it. We'll also post signage, and we can always hopefully lean on the police department when required. There is parking available on Village Lot 14. It is restricted 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and the Tilden Avenue does have the 24 spaces. So we are proposing potential morning programming, but that would be fitness programs, so it would be a smaller class. Our classes don't exceed 24 at 6 a.m., I can assure you that. So, we feel confident, and then also looking at our new design, we have put in a new pathway over by the Tilden Avenue parking, so that will create accessibility for the residents to get to Shell without having to utilize lot 14 and violating the parking. And then smaller events, again, we'll fit within those parameters, and we will always speak with the village. We always do currently. Whenever we're having an event, we talk and ask for permission, get the required permits. So the operations manual, I'll just kind of go through it briefly. I know you have it. Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to dusk will be available for general use. We're looking to maybe move some of our programs that are inside, outside. It kind of expands our programming opportunities. And the daytime hours are 8 to 5, and then evening is 5 to 10. As I mentioned, those 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. would really be for fitness folks. Programming and event scheduling, we could do concerts, outdoor movies, fitness classes, dance performers, theater, art exhibitions, lectures, art workshops. The opportunities are endless. It supports a variety of public events and programs. It's going to emphasize reasonable sound management and noise control within the operation plan, again, following all the village ordinances. And then we do have guidelines in place for regulated event scheduling and rentals. So while we do want to offer them, we are going to take it slow when we start, because we are still going to be learning what the operations look like and planning for ourselves. This is really something that we want to be able to use for our community. And we're committed to public safety and maintenance. We keep all of our other facilities and parks up, and we would continue to do the same for this. So the Park District of Grange, we created this operation plan to help ensure that it aligns with ordinances and enhancing the community engagement. And it'd be a community asset. We feel the benefits to the Park District is it allows us to enhance our programming. It increases park engagement and facility utilization, and its potential for revenue generation through event rentals. There's also benefits to the village of LaGrange, we feel. It strengthens cultural and entertainment landscape for the village, for our residents, which is a common goal for both of us. It encourages economic activity by attracting visitors to come to LaGrange if we have different art exhibits or things like that. And it reinforces compliance with ordinances for orderly operations. And just the endless benefits to the community, provides accessible venues for all ages, fosters social connections through shared cultural and recreational experiences, and creates a vibrant public space for community engagement. So we just really feel that this would enrich public spaces, promotes local culture, and enhances the quality of life, which is our mission. So I'm going to turn it over to Patty to talk a little bit about the design.
All right. So this is an example of the shelter, the van shelter that we would like to use. This was actually, we have utilized this in South Elgin. So if you want to go look at it, you can. But it is a 50 by 40 foot structure. We are anticipating this particular design, we were about 5 feet above finished grade, but for yours, we're gonna drop it down a little more. It'll be about 2.5 feet above finished grade, so from the bottom of the stairs up to the top where the platform would be for performance. It also, at that height, really nestles right in the grading where we've got it, so the backside actually looks like it's at grade, close to the parking lot, so it actually fits the site really well that way. The top of the roof is 24 feet tall at the top of the arch, and then the eave height at the edges are 13 feet 8 inches, so just to get a general sense. The structure is made out of steel, it's powder coated, there is a wood tongue and groove decking that's underneath to help with acoustics, and there is a multi-rib metal roof that fits on the top. So this is an example of where we would like to locate it. The bottom image is an enlargement, just so you can see some of the detail of the stairs that we'll have. We have what we call our dance floor right in front, so that also allows for ADA seating during events. Could totally be a dance floor during concerts, so that's kind of what I've nicknamed it in my 30 years as doing stuff like this. So we feel like we've got a really well-designed space. The sidewalk in the back is actually a ramp up to the rear end of the platform itself for the stage, so that equipment can be wheeled up easily. And that ramp is less than 5%, so it's totally accessible, which is great. Lawn seating, we'll seat a little over 1,400 people. Our dimensions for that, we always calculate that by 16 square foot per person. In our experience, that seems to be the magic number, and works really well. So we're, I suppose if people are a little closer together, they can squeeze in. But most people are renting blankets or chairs and that to sit on. So we feel like that 1,400 plus is a perfect amount for this space. These are just some exhibits from the manufacturer of the van shell itself, just to see some detail in what that might look like.
So that's the van shell. So again, we want to thank you for your time and consideration. We would request support for this to go through. Option 1, approval as presented. We feel a substantial conformity with the zoning code and applicable regulations, supports community enhancement and compliance with ordinances, and it strengthens public engagement and product utilization. And with the conditions, we're happy with those. We've spoken with the village. And we just feel a new van shell at Gordon Park would really enhance the community and add to a thriving Grange. Happy to answer questions.
Could you put up the graphic of the overview? So, there you go.
Oh, are you?
If you were there, one more.
Sure.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. So, in the current park at Gordon, is anything destroyed? And if you point out here what was added?
Sure. I know you can't see this from way back there, but the existing van shell actually sits right here on our survey. We are actually going to relocate the existing van shell structure over near the handball courts.
Oh, okay.
Because it's really sized a little more appropriately like a picnic shelter for them, and they would like it. So that is a really nice reuse for the park district as well. Other than that, the pathway that we're putting in, there is a pathway there now. We are going to rearrange it a little bit just to make some room and create some space for the lawn seating. But it's essentially a reconstruction of that existing.
And where is the splash pad on it?
Of course, it's your image. Could you go back up to the thanks site plan? Okay. So here's where the new van shell would be.
Okay.
And then here's the splash pad, and playground is here. And the skate park wraps around this area.
So no loss of parking, everything else is the same?
Yep.
Okay.
Handball courts stay and remain in place.
And can you point out where the old van shell's going?
It's not shown on the plan, but we've got it about here on the new plan.
Commissioners, questions?
We show the deciduous trees around the seating area out there.
We do.
The drawings in the north landscape, no, it's the south landscape plan, GL 101, does not show any screening for evergreens around the band shell.
We have added that since we've sent you those exhibits.
Is the screening on the sides and the back?
Yes. You go back to the construction document, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So we will actually have evergreens placed all around on these three sides.
Okay.
And I know you'll have to trust me when I say that they're on the plans, but you'll have to approve those later anyway. So, but they are. We've done the planting plan, and those evergreens, those arborvitae are there.
Yeah, just, as long as you're on that,
Sure.
go to the South Elgin picture. That one, that's not that, okay. Having the evergreens on the sides, would that include views in some cases?
Not necessarily. I mean, most of so for South Elgin, like all the seating is this way because the Fox River is, about 20 feet this way. So all of the space for looking at it is in front. It actually goes down Spring Street. So for you guys, really the view is out towards the lawn area. So where the edges of the band shell come out, I mean, that really is where you're directing all the views and the sound. So,
Questions? More questions?
I know that parking was mentioned, and I remember being to other big events in Gordon Park, and you just can't even use the parking lots, right? Because everybody parks on the fields. But if you're going to have more big events where you could have 12 to 1,400 people, will you be using the fields for parking more often?
We would not. I would like to stress that while we had Annual Summerfest in the past, that was a very large-scale event. That was in partnership with the village and LGBA. We're looking more for community events, more like Country Jam. I don't know if any of you attended. It was probably about 1,000 visitors. We're really looking to focus on providing community events for our community and not drawing tons of external residents. So for Country Jam, for example, that parking lot never filled up. We had parking attendants, we had crossing guards. The amount of walkers was amazing because Grange is, a small community. And we had a bus shuttle on standby when the parking lot filled up for patrons to park at the park district, and then we would shuttle them over. We never got to that point, but we always would have a parking plan in place. And appreciate the village's coordination to do some good work.
So along those lines, it looks like the lawn seating would accommodate about 1,400 visitors. In the past, how many has the park accommodated using the existing band shell? Do you have an estimate as to?
We again, the band shell really was too small to be able to utilize in the capacity it was titled. So for example, Endless Summerfest, we brought in a big stage. We couldn't even utilize it. For Country Jam, we used a different stage because it was too small. You can't put a band under there right now or do any sort of engagement. It's really quite small. So we were kind of double paying, right? We have this band shell, but we can't use it for entertainment. So this allows us to do a full range of events.
And in the past, with the events that you've had there, have there been complaints from neighbors or the surrounding buildings about noise or traffic or?
We always notify them, so we notify Uptown Grange, we notify across the street again. So we send out notifications to those residents so they know it's coming. We have had one or two complaints, but that was maybe when we had fireworks. We're not looking to have fireworks or anything of that nature. Again, these are really going to be smaller events. Country Jam actually ended at 8 p.m. So it's really weren't going late into the evening. Did anybody come to Country Jam? No. It was amazing. It was very family oriented. There were tons of kids running around. It was amazing. So those are really more of the events. I mean, earlier, not going to the wee hours of the night, and just really forming a good community event.
All right, one more question. What is the roof? What color is the roof? Is it? Well, I had to pick. It's black. We're
working through color selections. You know, it is a large structure. Black just sort of
Hot
tends
pink.
to fade away. Yeah, it's not gonna be hot pink.
No.
Might be brown, but I don't really like brown, so I'm gonna try and talk Jenny out of that, but,
Is that part of the design review process that we would have to approve?
So typically with new buildings, we do
Yeah.
get material samples with colors. You could defer it to staff to review and approve at a later date based on something that's similar to what's been presented in the rendering.
Yeah, and most likely it will be black or brown. It's just a matter of deciding.
I just wanted to fit in with that.
Absolutely.
yeah, we're not looking to make an icon out of it.
Yeah.
It needs to fit in with the space. We certainly understand that it's surrounded by residential. It needs to be a little more controlled in the background. So.
And one thing you'd be able to do on a condition is if you wanted to approve it subject to it being black or brown or any other color that you think is appropriate, so that way it's not hot pink if you think that's not an appropriate color. So you could condition on the spectrum of what you would like to see.
What that would do for the staff.
Earth tones.
More questions?
Just one question. So what are the events this summer? Just curious.
None. Yeah. So Gordon Park is going to be closing around July. So we will not be having any events. Even our new event, Country Jam, will not take place this year because it will be under construction. Next year, we definitely want to have Country Jam back, but we're still in the planning process. Again, we said we would have 4 events annually for each quarter. So we're still in the very beginning stages, but we need to get it approved so we can start those planning processes.
Yeah, I think it's the right park. Gordon Park is going to benefit greatly from this. It's the right location, and I encourage you to have many events. It's fun.
Which leads me to a question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I noticed that the district proposes events with amplified sound to occur no more than quarterly, and you mentioned the advance notice.
Yes.
The district also intends to rent the band shell up to 12 times a year with no limitations on amplified sound, but subject to your review and intending to deal with compliance. Who would you normally expect to rent to?
We've already had people reach out to us from an orchestra. It could be potential church groups. So different groups like that may want to utilize some amplified sound for their events.
Okay. The park district events would be exempt from special use permit requirements, but the rentals that would include amplified sound, sales, food vendors, carnivals, circuses, would require a special event permit. How would you require that in your rental agreements?
Yes.
Okay. And notice to the village.
Mm-hmm.
The village would be the one issuing the special event permit for our new special event policies that we're given us.
Yeah, while we're talking about bands and electricity, how is the electric lockdown so the average person just can't plug in their boombox there and have a little rate?
So there will be a new pedestal put in. The cabinet will be locked. The park district will have a key for that, so they would have to have access to it for rental.
Great.
Yep.
It's on battery.
Solar.
More questions? None? Wonderful. So there's a few things to tackle here. If you'd like to have a seat, I think in the presentation.
Thank
Good. Is there any comments from the audience? Anyone here to talk about the band shell? Okay. Good. Okay, we have a few things. This is a special use permit, and I guess I have a question. So this is the requesting an amendment to the approved special use permit. How is that?
Correct. So they previously had a special use permit site plan approval for Gordon Park in 2013.
Okay.
We're amending those approvals to account for this new ban shell and the other site plan improvements that they're proposing as part of this, including that pedestrian connectivity from the ban shell.
So our motion is that we're amending the original special use permit. Give it
Yeah, you can even make it simpler than that if you like, and just say recommending approval of the applications as presented.
Okay. Take that under consideration. Okay, so that's the first item. They also a site plan approval. Is there any concerns from the commissioners, the site plan that was presented?
Other than the amendment that's been done for the screening around
That we haven't seen
that
yet?
we have not seen.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And then, of course, there's the, right, the, as we say, the design, design review. So besides the color, and given that this, I guess, is somewhat of a stock fan shell, are there any questions? The height, obviously the height is smaller than what we see there, which is, sounds great. Got access to the back. Anything else? Revitalized sidewalks. No concerns, no problems. Everyone seems fairly. So the only two issues that I see to the written proposal is the material review. I think I personally would defer to staff. Commissioners, does anyone want something more thorough than that? Would you like to define the color?
No, staff.
Okay. And then, of course, like as you say, the screening. Anything else that we need to put in there? If someone is brave enough then to provide a motion to get the Park District their new game shop.
Yeah, I'll make that motion that's outlined on this in the staff report, I believe, page 10, to approve the special use amendment, design review permit, and site plan approval as presented with the requirements that they maintain the landscaping as was discussed, that any future modifications of the operational plan requires village approval, and that the staff has approval of materials and colors.
Great. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Egan. Aye. O'Connor.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Wente.
Aye.
And Pace.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Hey, well, while we have you here, I saw the fencing going up around Wyola.
Yes.
How long is that project taking?
Well, the substantial completion date is October 4th, but we anticipate it being done sooner than that. But it is weather dependent, and each time it's up to
So pretty much shut down
it
most of the
will be
summer.
shut down for most of the summer. Like I hope late August, September, but again, weather, you never know.
Right.
So, we're gonna go as quick as we can, and we're gonna see if there's ways, putting for parts and things are completed.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
was highly disappointed.
Just have to visit the new park.
Just across the street from now.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for your time.
Thank you, good luck.
And I expect to see all of you at Country Day.
In 2 years.
I will send you personal invites.
Okay. Looks like we're setting up for the next phase. The next phase is Plan Commission Case 277, a special use permit, site plan approval, and design review permit for co-working space, brick and mortar, 30 South Grange Road, and being presented by Andrew Nast and Adam Faber. First, I think obviously the commissioners, you know, we've talked about this in our November meeting, and at that point in time we passed it. It had gone to the village board. They had concerns. They've remanded it back to us for a little more vetting. Hopefully the staff is prepared to give us a presentation of what's different and how things have changed.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So I am going to try and focus on the things that have changed since the last time you saw the application. There is an analysis of all of the standards in the staff memo, but you'll note that at various points in the staff memo, it does refer back to the your November memo, which is also included in the packet for additional details. So just a brief reminder of the building that we're talking about here, 30 South Grange Road in the C1 CR zoning district, the former Nixon's restaurant. Here's today. There's the zoning. And the application, as we've discussed, is for co-working in conjunction with retail sales. So the current proposal, just like the previous ones, is for co-working on the entirety of the second floor, co-working on a portion of the first floor with retail on a portion of the first floor. The exterior plans for the building have not really changed. The proposed entrances, where there's a dedicated entrance for the retail and a dedicated entrance for the co-working, remains the same. Actually, you can kind of see right there on the existing building, there's a door on the left side. That's the entrance to the stairwell that went to the upstairs. And so the new entrance that's dedicated for the co-working will generally be in that same location. And then if you recall how you used to enter into Nixon's, that would be the entrance for the retail space. Walking through the retail space, you would be able to also access the co-working. So 2 points of access on the first floor for the co-working space, one for retail. The co-working, as I mentioned, the operations remain unchanged from the prior proposal. The floor plan related to co-working has been modified to accommodate some of the changes in the retail floor plan. So I'll talk a little bit about retail. The retail concept now is titled brick and mortar market. So it is featuring what the applicant characterized as co-retailing, locally curated, high-quality consumables from small startup businesses. The retail floor area is 644 square feet, so it's a little difficult to see on this slide, but in your application materials, you have a larger version of the floor plan. You can see in the front, there is a counter service area for food service with 4 seats. The grab-and-go window that was there previously is still in place. And then there's dedicated retail shelving, as well as a dedicated restroom for the retail use. So the square footage is 644 square feet. What you reviewed previously was 417 square feet. What was approved back in 2021 was 500-something square feet. The proposed products in your application materials, and I know the applicants will speak to this more, they have a list of businesses that they've already spoken with about featuring. It's a variety of different products, including the previously proposed acai bowls, but also clothing, personal beauty, and other food products, pre-prepared food products. In the future, the applicant would intend to offer a variety of allowable retail products for sale as provided for amongst the permitted uses of the zoning code, with the exception of no plans for tobacco or alcohol products. The retail area will be owned and operated by brick and mortar, not leased to a separate business. This is showing the facade. Again, just as I mentioned, no changes from the last time you saw this in November. And within the staff memo, as I mentioned, there's a detailed summary of all of the standards for special use site plan and design review permit. I know the applicant also has a presentation, so I'll take any questions.
Sure. Commissioners, questions for staff? None at this time? Okay. If you'd like to, presentation? If you have a presentation? Okay. I'll have to swear you in. Is anyone else prepared to discuss anything this evening? Yes? Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge? Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
So while we're having technical difficulties for a second, Mr. Nask, I remember, as we all remember, one of the large portions of the last conversations, and I know this has changed in your current proposal, is the ownership of the retail part. If perhaps you could talk us through that process right now. Is the computer going?
Sure, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I'm good. You guys good?
Is it on? Is it green? There you go.
That's better.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
All right, sure. So the ownership now is for brick and mortar the Grange to own both, right? So it owns both the co-working and the retail concept.
Okay. As a one unified business?
One unified business, that's correct. And the distinction would be in just how we brand the storefront as brick and mortar market.
Okay. Is this common in your other co-working situations?
It is not. This is the first go at a retail concept. Quite frankly, it's the first time we've been required to have that with the first floor. That being said, I will say that we're a few things. One, obviously, we're committed to making this work at the Grange. That's why we're here again. Okay. And we believe that this direction and this path forward fits not only us and brick and mortar, but it fits the community at large in a pretty special way. So, co-retailing,
Sorry, I'm still working on
that's
it.
good. So co-retailing, it exists in the world, right? We're all familiar with it. It would be an example of, you've gone to Target and there's a Starbucks inside, right? You go to Mariano's and there's a Starbucks inside. That's an example of co-retailing, right? They're able to leverage marketing efforts from one another to benefit top line revenue, and ultimately, because they're sharing space, they're able to reduce expenses. So that at a very high level is co-retailing. Now, this is continuing to pick up traction on a larger scale because of the fact that restaurants, retail, they're all downsizing, and they're all looking to the shared economy to be able to save space. And so for us, the reason we're extremely passionate about this direction is because to date, brick and mortar has been focused on service-based businesses. Predominantly, that's who works there, right, is service-based businesses. And so now this brick and mortar market gives product-based businesses a home and really a spotlight that they otherwise could not have outside of their local farmers markets. And a lot of these folks are at multiple farmers markets, as we mentioned last time, right? As an example, BOA, the Brazilian organic acai folks, they're at 11 different farmers markets. In fact, they got accepted to be at Grange's 2025 farmers market this year. And so they're at all these farmers markets, people love them, and then you ask them, well, why aren't you at a storefront? Well, and there's typically economic reasons. They have put that a bit out of reach, especially in the markets that they're in, i.e. LaGrange, Parkridge, Hinsdale, etc. Right? And so now this allows those business owners, those founders, to be able to have storefront space here. And what's neat about it is that this is an eclectic group, right, under one roof. But what's neat is that the common thread is their founder stories. And that's what we're excited to be able to highlight. So when you're entering the retail space, it's not just going into some grab-and-go store. It's a journey through the space to be able to learn about these different products. An example I like to use, because it's a real-life example for me, is I was going to buy a bottle of wine as a gift. And I was at a store, and they had essentially small, but it was detailed about each wine and how it came to be. And so I'm going through reading them. I'm not a wine connoisseur, I'll admit. So I'm reading this and thinking, man, this is me a gift. And so the one says, this wine almost never happened. Okay, I'm intrigued. How did that? And they said that the farmer, right, who harvested the grapes was going out of business, and this wine provider was going out of business. and through a thin thread, they wound up meeting, and because of it, they both saved their businesses, and now this wine is here on the shelf for you today. And I thought, man, that's a tremendous story, and I purchased a bottle of wine, and then I went to the party, and I was able to tell that story and say, hey, this is pretty neat. And so that's the idea conceptually behind this. A lot of the founders, they're certainly passionate about their products, but they're also passionate about what their products can do to whether it's positively impact right, their communities, but whether it's the community at large or at a larger scale, right? Some of them are giving back to third world countries with every donation, with every purchase, right? And so that's the spirit behind the store. And we've spoken with many of these vendors who will be participating, and the reason we're so passionate about it is because they're so excited about it. It was the reception that we received was better than we could have even imagined. So much so that I mentioned this to Charity that they all wanted to be here tonight. They said, "We'll come and speak on your behalf." And we said, "We'll pass out samples, etc." I said, "Well, I'm sure they'd appreciate that, but I don't know, now's the time." And so there will be founders talks where, and that's part of the agreement with these providers is, and I just want to take you through the scenario. We're sharing with them that this is our vision and what would be required. They're following up with, how often can I do that, right? And so it's, we said, we're not sure the cadence, right? How often, but we do want there to be a cadence where you're there whenever it makes sense for you to bring your community at large, right? It's your first storefront. So imagine anybody, right, having their first store, and this is what it is for all of these folks. And so they're able to now invite their community and put that out on social media. Hey, I'm doing a pop-up event at Brick and Mortar Market in Grange. I'm on the shelves there. Come see me, right? They're at the farmers markets, right? They're at call it 5, 10, 11, 12 farmers markets throughout the week, marketing to their people. Hey, I'm going to be here. Come out, support me. And so the idea is that they'll come out, they'll be able to share samples, and then ultimately be able to give some sort of talk that either is about their product, about what they've learned along the way, how they give back, etc., etc. And so that's at a glimpse, essentially what the co-retailing vision is at Brick and Mortar.
I don't want to take you out of your rhythm, so I'm sure you have a prepared presentation. I think we're ready to go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what I explained. I think what's pretty neat about this is, again, being able to focus on and just I don't say globally speaking, but with Shark Tank, there's a infatuation with startup brands and seeing the underdog succeed, and that's what this is, right? As you can see with the up-and-comers, that's what we're looking to highlight, right? These are brands that most people, unless they're visiting farmers markets and in tune with the startup world, they may never have heard of these brands. Doesn't mean they're not awesome. It just means they're unknown to date. And so, we keep going. And so this is the thread that I was explaining, ties everything together. Feature length on the shelves. So this is one of the brands, Fueled AF. Angelica is amazing. She is a ton of energy and very passionate about helping disability people, and so she's got protein bites that are delicious, and nut butters, and they're obviously you can read about her story. So that's one of the products that would be on the shelves and highlighted. So, excuse me, Ivy Nicole, personal care items that are incredible, and speaking with her and then some of the customers who have tried her products, they swear by them. And obviously, being able to have them on the shelves and share them with others, she was one of the people that said, how often can I come to the store and promote? She said, because it's always better if I'm there to be able to do that. And there's, excuse me, some of these other brands. So anything from chocolate to Cutie Juice's juice shots. Her claim to fame is that people don't get sick when they're taking those. Hacienda Grinds is coffee. Siesta, so pretty funny. They have candles, which are great, but then they also make these fidgets, which I was not familiar with, but they're these fun toys. I brought them home, and I have 3 girls, 9, 7, and 3, and the 3-year-old claimed them all as hers, but they all loved them. They still play with them today. That was pretty neat. Color Wheel is a whitening toothpaste, so it's purple, and she's a hairstylist. She's out of Elmhurst, and so she's excited to have shelf space here. She sells, I don't remember what she said, but something. The quantity and her reach, I feel like she said something that she's sold to almost every state in America, which is pretty cool. And then BOA is Yasa Equals. And so this is just an example of the space and how it interacts with one another. Next slide. Same thing here, talking about founders talks. That photo is probably a bit outdated. We did expand the space, and it is significantly larger with the restroom eating into the co-working space now. These are examples of on the left is our Park Ridge location, on the right is our Deerfield location, so just an example of the quality behind the spaces. And this goes through the different memberships that are offered, so anything from hourly meeting space, office space, to daily, to monthly memberships. All the amenities that are included. Discuss. Local business to the community, so not only are we excited for everything that I just described, but also the fact that a lot of these events wind up being catered. And so we love partnering with local restaurants to be able to do not only just the catering, but also if there was to be cocktails, right, it's there, or beer and wine being provided, it would be their license. They're coming in and providing that. And we've done that at a number of different spaces. Businesses and networking meetings. Excuse me. And so this talks about shows our locations in correspondence with city centers at the other locations, right? So we're all in city centers, 4 of which have approved, 1, 2, 3, 4 on there have approved the special use variance to be able to allow us and saw the difference between office, just traditional office, right, attorney, insurance, etc. Offices versus what we're doing. And one of the reasons they were very excited about this was because this becomes a business hub for the community. And so for them, they always thought, man, if we get more people, especially during the day, to our city center, that ultimately is going to be a benefit to the community at large and the other businesses, restaurants, etc. throughout the day. And that's what I just referenced. So this is Q&A. I'm happy to answer any of these in greater detail, but it just goes through the hours to capacity and so on. That's our Glen Ellen location. So just a sneak peek. That's been open since November. And I will say that in Glen Ellen, there's multiple co-working spaces, right? So there's, Glen Ellen has Enclave, it has Regis not too far, and it also has Wheaton that has other co-working spaces as well. Park Ridge has multiple co-working spaces. There's, outside of us, Regis has 2 spaces within walking distance. And then Deerfield has multiple locations. Libertyville has multiple locations. And so I guess the common theme is that there's quite a bit of growth within what we're doing. And so what's neat about the brick and mortar market is that it has essentially anchor clients as members and greater conveniences. So not only is it there, but in Glen Ellen, we partner with Blackberry Market, which we would continue that partnership here. BlackBerry actually delivers directly to brick and mortar, and so they have their electronic access. So you can go on the BlackBerry website right now if you wanted to schedule your delivery. Let's say at a meeting tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and you want to do lunch at noon. You go on BlackBerry and you can order for your meeting, and they'll deliver it. And so we would look to continue that here with them and any other partnership that can be provided within the community. People like us. There's Adam and myself. We've been in business together for over 10 years at this point. Collectively, we have pretty vast experience from hospitality to real estate to construction to tech. And so this general direction allows us to put all of our highest and best qualities to use and put those on display, obviously, front and center in a high-profile location in the Grange. So this was, excuse me, one of the concerns of the fact that, well, the Grange has an influx of shared office spaces, and is that even necessary, right? Is there even a need in downtown La Grange, right? It's great that you guys want to be here, but does the city actually need it? And so this is showing that, as you can see with the blue is the dotted line is on-site work, right? So that obviously had a vast drop in 2020. And then it's, you'll hear in the news, right? There's this mandate of let's get back to the office. The reality is that yes, some are going back, but it's essentially pretty level. And then the green is exclusively remote work, right? So there was a peak, and that's come down, and so remote work is not is occurring, but again, that's pretty steady. What's increasing and people are continuing to figure out is the hybrid model, right? And that's different for every company, right? So I will say one of our lead investors, she's the chief of staff for JP Chase, and so the reason that she really believes in this direction is that we do not cater to the Fortune 500, we cater to the individual. And so that individual includes the gig economy, which is only going to continue to get larger over time. And her vantage point is, she also likes the fact that we're going to be in these niche neighborhoods, and she does like the first floor. And she said for her, it's the fact that the third place, like people need a place, and the built infrastructure of where people can work. For her, she's like, it just doesn't exist, right? There are coffee shops, but she's like, even at Chase, she said, all of our people aren't going back to the office, right? And so she said, but we don't want them working at coffee shops. And we don't necessarily want to limit them to working at home. We'd like to provide them options. Those are tough based on where people live and what they're looking to achieve, which is convenience and flexibility in their life. And so she's like, that you're solving that problem. And so the hybrid work is, as you can see, is continuing. And so this shows how large is it in the Grange. Whether it's us or any shared office provider, generally the biggest obstacle that we all have to overcome is education. 42% of the population doesn't even know what shared office is or that it's an option. And a great analogy would be the gym, right? So going to the gym, we all can think of gyms, right? Whether it's Lifetime or Export or you name it, right? There's lots of gym options. Well, at one point that didn't exist, right? And so I think it was in the 1890s was the first gym was ever created. And then it didn't really actually pick up steam for a little while. But that's because you had a change in how people adjust their behaviors. And so, and now the gym today, I think it's 24% of the United States population has a gym membership today. Whereas in co-working today, 1.2. 1.2% of the population. I'm sorry, 1.2 million people. Only 1.2 million people today have a co-working membership in the entire United States. Why is that? Is it because, and when you go to coffee shops, they're slammed. When you go to gyms, they're trying to have people work out of there, and that's an interesting sight. Libraries are slammed. It's the fact that people just don't know, right? And I share this story, but it's true, right? We give tours, and less today, but when we first started in Park Ridge, people asked us if we invented co-working, right? And it's been around since the 1989, we just invented co-working. And so what we're sharing is the fact that there's a lot of people who just don't know there's a better way. And once they learn that, right, and that's why our repeat business and co-working, I'd imagine at large, but for sure for us, our repeat members are so high, is because once they understand how this fits into their life, they enjoy it and continue moving forward. So this highlights the demand in the Grange, right? And so what we're saying here is that, and it'll go to the next slide, but the supply is about 1.5%, demand significantly greater. The next slide will show, I believe, so total unserved knowledge workers within 3-mile radius of LaGrange is 9,820. Now, I'll point out with this number, with having 3 spaces, right, within a small proximity, let's say we're 80% wrong on this number. That would leave an extra 2,000 people. I promise you, if we're 80% wrong, we would all be at capacity and looking to add more spaces, right? And so as the educational marketing picks up and more spaces pick up, and people understand this, that will continue. We'd have to be, I think, for it not to make sense to add another space, I think we'd have to be, 96% wrong. And so this speaks to co-retailing and where trends are going and what people are looking for, right? People are looking for high quality products, so that's a check for us. And efficient layout. They're looking for experiential, just experiences, period. And that's in a lot of different industries. And so that's I think my story earlier alludes to that. A curated selection, so they want to have different products and being able to know that the products that are in front of them, that there's thought behind it, and that's the reason that they're on the shelf, so they can trust that. Personalized service, right, attentive staff, it will be fully staffed. A digital presence, yes, leveraging online platforms. You'll never see people leverage online platforms more than the startup folks, right? Free marketing is the best marketing at times. Experiential convenience, right? So focus on experience per square foot, creating a holistic customer experience, and that's what this market will do. And so this highlights, right, in the other, so when there's a service-based business with retail on the front end of it, it's typically 470 square feet, which take 470 divided by the required 25 feet, I think it comes out to 18 feet. Pretty standard building, right? 18 by 25, that's your depth. And that's what folks are doing. What we're showing here is that we're going, obviously we're almost double, I think it's 38%, yeah, 38% larger than the other folks in the spirit of a more engaging retail experience. So LaGrange has it all. One thing it doesn't have is co-retailing. And not only would this be unique for LaGrange, period, but it would also be unique for the surrounding area at large, and just based on marketing, not only our marketing, but every product line that's there, they're looking to get people into this store. So what this proves is how many people, right, can we get to the center of LaGrange to ultimately shop at not only our store, but the stores throughout LaGrange, enjoy the restaurants, enjoy LaGrange, period. Maybe even go to their country concert. I think that's great. Good reading. Yeah. Nothing reading on that. Is there any? The last one? Yep, that's it.
Yep, okay.
So again,
Great. I'm sure we'll have questions. I think at this point, I think I'd like to I'll go too far. I'd like to hear from another member of the audience who said they'd like to speak. It's to get all the commentary first, and then we can debate a bit.
Hello, I'm Sue Reardon, and I am a resident of LaGrange and have been for 35 years. My husband and I, we raised our family here in LaGrange and have lived here quite a while. And I'm also the founder of Sweet Spot, which is one of the 3 co-working spaces currently operated for LaGrange. We are at 21 South LaGrange Road on the 2nd floor. We're in Suite 200, and which is located across the street from where Brick and Mortar's proposing a location, and about a little less than a block from Enclave, which is the 3rd co-working space there. Sweet Spot introduced the co-working community to the near west suburbs in 2014. So we've been around for 10 years, and as the workforce evolved, which we have all seen, we have made and continue to make changes to the services that we offer in order to work with what our members and users and market requires. Although I'm a business owner, and particularly in this case, a co-working business owner, and by the way, very nice. You know, that we do and provide a co-working business that presentation shows you what co-working is all about, and our businesses are very similar from that standpoint. What I'm here tonight, though, is to talk more from being a resident of LaGrange. And one of the stipulations in the recently approved comprehensive plan for LaGrange is that first floor place spaces in the downtown area, in the CBD, be dedicated to retail and to restaurants, and basically in order to get the flow going, get people into town, and get the community going. But from a practical standpoint, what we're really talking about too is the generation of sales tax revenue. Now, the amount of sales tax revenue generated can influence the property tax levy. We've seen it. In fact, in the early 2000s, when LaGrange had a comprehensive plan, it was growing, the whole CBD was taking hold, there was a lot of dedication to the requirements within the comprehensive plan. And there was a lot of sales tax revenue generated that was, I think, for most of us who lived in LaGrange and had businesses in LaGrange, it was totally unexpected. So when we got our property tax bills, they actually decreased. And it's because of the generation of sales tax revenue. Now, the amount of sales tax generated, the revenue generated, can absolutely influence property tax levy. Brick and Mortar's co-retailing and co-working proposal designates approximately 650 square feet or 18% of the first floor for retail, and about 3,200 square feet or 82% of the first floor for co-working. While the whole brick and mortar market, the whole retail concept that they're proposing is certainly appealing, and I absolutely take my hat off to them for that. Dedicating only 18% of the first floor to retail, in my opinion, raises the question of the benefit to the community versus the 3,200 square feet of potential sales tax revenue that's lost. As a resident and business owner in LaGrange, we look to you as the guardians of that comprehensive business plan. It was created by the business, by the village. It was, they used the guidance of experts in municipal planning. They presented it to the community for input and direction, and has been embraced by the community, and the board approved it. And when I turn to you as the guardians, as the commission, is to ask you, and respectfully ask you, to give serious consideration to what's being proposed here, to have office space on the first floor, and is there a need for that? I'm not proposing the brick and mortar not do co-working. I'm just saying, why the first floor? When it goes against everything that the comprehensive plan has indicated is what the vision is for LaGrange. So I thank you for your service as the commissioners, and I hope you will give serious consideration to my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, you've heard testimony from the applicant and from the staff. Questions? Commissioner Schwartz, the applicant.
Would it be possible to put the diagram up of the floor plan?
Floor plan?
Yeah, floor plan.
Sure. Take a little while.
I know, sorry.
That's all right.
I figured it was gonna do that. Oh, there, I think it is. There we go.
There it is.
So I see the front retail area, and then there's an area called cafe, and it's behind a door. I assume that cafe is not open to the public. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. And then my next question was, so I saw in the write-up that you're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most people use the space between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., with the busiest time between 10 and 3. Is that Monday through Friday?
Yes. Monday through Friday.
And then what is Saturday and Sunday like during the day? How used are the offices? Like, what's your occupancy and availability rate?
Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, on average.
Half.
More questions? Sure. Commissioner Regan.
So I'm curious as to where you, and I know the village board wanted you to focus on this, so how did you come up with the idea of the co-retailing?
Yeah, good question. So, I'll keep a long story. So initially, right, going back to our first proposal, that was the spirit of what we were trying to achieve. We didn't have the contacts that we have today, and so today, and then at the city council meeting, one of the ladies, she mentioned that she was excited to go to the store and to go on that journey. And so that really sparked an aha moment for us and thinking, hey, man, maybe we were onto something, and let's see if we can put it all together. And so lots of research, time, energy, and conversations. And then BOA, the PRC guy, so Brian's here. Brian and his partner, Adrian, they have lots of contacts. And so they were actually the ones spearheading making these introductions. And then you start to meet the community at large, and then we're talking to them, And they're saying, well, you know, who you really should talk to is this person too. And then we're having that conversation, and that leads to another. And because before we brought it to you, or you mentioned it to Charity, we went and did all the legwork to make sure this was a sustainable concept going forward. Because, quite frankly, I mean, we were open to, at beginning stages, right, any retail. And we, at one point, right, it was spoken that there might be a list that we could, that the village might have, or someone might have, that we could utilize, and that wasn't a thing, right? And it was okay. We had the property in the market, and does someone want to take it? Someone want to rent it? There's a space down the street that's 1950 square feet on Burlington that's been on the market for over 260 days. And so for us, the retail was, it didn't seem that there was a strong demand for retailers. And so we said, and so that's the aha moment happened at the last meeting, and we started looking into it. And we had shared our passion, because we regrouped, right? And so the first go around, we shared with Brian and Adrian, hey, this is what we were trying to achieve. It got approved, and everyone seemed to like it. There's a lot of space in between, so maybe we had forgotten that. So everyone liked it, and so they said, well, we think that sounds amazing too. And so then they said, well, do you guys have any contacts? Well, yeah, I mean, we're at 11 different farmers markets. Do we know people who would be excited to be on your shelves? Yeah, absolutely. And then, again, started having this conversation, and it just started ramping up. And before you know it, it was, people were sending us, out of all quotes, they're sending us pictures of them in business. They're sending us their vector files of logos. And said, how can we help? Like, this sounds amazing. There's nothing like this out there. This would be perfect. And so because of that excitement, not only for them and their business, but then they believe that obviously there's going to be a pretty good draw from a consumer standpoint. That's how we wound up here today.
And actually that leads to my next question. You kind of hit on it. Is there anything like this out there in the landscape now that we could kind of look at to see how successful it could be?
Ish. Starbucks and Target, Starbucks and Mariana's, good examples. There's other examples. Brian, you're the one in Barrington.
I don't remember the exact names of the towns.
Yeah, we could get, they were much larger in nature, and because they carried furniture, and they carried racks and racks of clothing, and it was more of a consignment-esque versus a startup curated brand of products.
All right, I have one more question. So it's all going to be unified ownership. Who's going to be responsible for the retail? I mean, you guys, this is what you do, but this is kind of a new avenue for you into the retail. So who's going to be in charge of that? The marketing and making sure that you've got things on the shelf that are actually selling, and getting different retailers in as necessary. Who's going to handle that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a collective group effort. Ultimately, I'm responsible, so I'll put that out there. But a collective group effort between brick and mortar, and then so BOA is going to take the front restaurant area, if you will, and so they're the ones that so all of the one common theme for all of the people we talked to was the training aspect. They said we want to make sure that the people who are in the store, i.e. Brian, Adrian, and their team, are trained and know our product. And so there's under the hood, right, there's a profit sharing structure in place where they're incentivized to obviously sell the products and make sure that, and then we're reviewing to make sure that it works. Our members are members in the community at large, but I'll say for sure our members are vocal in nature of they want to see the best, and we encourage that, right? We all want to improve, and so that will be, I'd imagine, shared throughout the space, and because there's a lot of eyeballs that we're going to see on a regular basis. You're carrying this, that's awesome, or you don't like that. Okay, why do you not like that? I don't like that because of this. Okay, great. And for us, we're looking to continuously evolve and if all the products out of the gate work and everyone loves them, then great. but obviously we'll continue to iterate if necessary.
Can you fill that out for me just a little bit more? I understand there's retail and the ACE bowls. So behind the counter and what looks like plumbing for restaurant stuff, is it just the ACE bowls being served there? Is there more food, more drink? Walk up the window, people can get a bunch of things?
Yeah, so there will be the ability to order online. So if you wanted to, if you said, hey, I'm coming by, right, I'm ordering online, I'm gonna get 2 acai bowls and the chocolate that you guys have, right? And that's what I want, then the bag can be ready. The idea with the grab-and-go window is that there's a lot of foot traffic, people with dogs, kids, etc., so they can hang out outside and still be served. In terms of behind the counter, there will be shelving above as well to be able to have additional products as needed.
Okay, but not really cooking anything.
Oh no, acai bowls.
Okay, the acai bowls are cooked there?
Yes, they're made there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no cooking. Yes.
Questions, commissioners?
I guess if the retail is so exciting and you're so optimistic about it, why not take more of that first floor?
Yeah, good question. Multiple answers for it. One is that there's a basement below, and so all of that is dedicated to inventory for the retail store. So the shelf space that we need, because we're able to replenish, is minimal for each product line. And the other aspect is, do you mind if I go here? Sure.
So what's important is right here, the function of the whole space. So deliveries, so vendor deliveries are here, right? During the day in operations, you don't want your vendors walking through and having to put inventory in the basement, right? So the idea of coming through the space, through here and down is very undesirable. So vendors being able to deliver here, down, and then obviously stocking the basement. This is a dumbwaiter, so being able to get product up from the basement through the dumbwaiter to then ultimately restock the shelves, etc. These stairs, and there's that's what the architect letter is stating, is that these stairs going up, this is as far back as we possibly could push them for a number of reasons. But so that's as far back, and then here, the importance of this is that for the post office to be able to deliver for mail and packages and package deliveries, it needs to be through the front of a building. They will not deliver off the alley. Check with USPS.
And the one door you need for deliveries, there is no door on that side of the building currently, or is there? There's a door there?
It's currently about the location of the door that goes to the second floor. It's very steep stairs.
Okay. More questions? I guess I got to follow up on Commissioner O'Connor's question. I know there's a land space there, fighting for space. It just seems that having more retail would be something the village would certainly want. I heard the testimony from Ms. Reardon, and saying that we want more tax revenue, and it's the first floor. It's something that the village kind of wants. Sure, is looking for.
Yeah. Our thought is vacant, unused, larger retail space is less desirable than having a full co-working space that people can go out into the community and purchase at the restaurants and shops. There is a certain business viability of ensuring that all of this can work cohesively together. And we're 38% larger than any other retail with a service-based business. You can argue that, well, sure, but in the percentage of your spaces, sure, but nobody's taking this larger first floor spaces, right? That's just not what they're looking for. And so there's a reason that 1,950 square feet directly across the train tracks at a reasonable price is sitting there for 200 plus days on the market. And so for us, we certainly respect and hear what you're saying. This allows for the entire concept to work. It's a, yeah, and we feel very confident that we can achieve at a high level here, create a unique experience, and go from there. Again, transparent. If there was other retailers, right? If there was a retailer out there that said, "Gosh, I want your entire first floor," or "I want 80% of I want any of your first floor," we would be, have been, continue to be open to that conversation. Neither the person who was here at the last meeting who said they wanted a retail store, they never approached us, and we have not had any interest in that throughout our years of going through this.
I'm looking for a little more context from the board, and we've got, thankfully, we have Trustee Thompson here, who was at the board meeting, and they remanded it back to us, and we don't really get a warning that that stuff happens. But I guess I'd like to hear from Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the board meeting, when this got to the board, there was a lot of debate back and forth over the changes from the originally approved plan to the plan that was presented last time. The retail space had shrunk, so there was a big concern on that. There was a concern over whether an acai bowl restaurant could make it. Also, the diagrams weren't very clear that we could see. Was all the kitchen prep equipment had been removed, and therefore you've really lost the ability to ever use this space as a restaurant again should this retail space fail. The store hours were limited, which I think they fixed in this one, but if it closed at 5 o'clock and our biggest downtown area for residents is 5 to 8, why is it closed? There was concerns over what actually was the food going to be prepared on site, because if it's not prepared on site, that's totally different. And the one other item they brought up was that in the original proposal, there was going to be showcases or open houses, special events that would occur to bring in these new vendors, these upcoming vendors, and there would be a space that would open up between the front and the cafe area where you could have these big open houses. And that was gone in that drawing. There was no access to it. Also in the old plans, there was really no access to any restroom for the front of the buildings either. So, and again, the same question that y'all brought up, looking for more retail space versus less retail space, because while there is a vacant property on Burlington, Nixon's in that building in its past has been very successful. It's in a prime location. Some would say that Burlington on that corner is not as prime as the Nixon's building. So to give up a true prime piece of property for 460 square feet of retail just did not make sense. And so when the board passed it back, it was really to get focused on, have they built a retail program that would work? Should we look at an alternative to say, look, we'll break the original special use permit. You give us half the first floor, and you're not tied to having that. Right now, if that retail space closes, they close. So could y'all take it back and break that so we could lease that space out and have it just be to somebody that really wants that space? And that's why it was sent back, was to really try to beef up the retail side and get that more retailish, more drawing in more customers, and everyone recognizes that these people that are working in co-working are going to go out to eat and shop in the restaurants and all, but we want retail on the first floor. We don't want it to be where a law firm comes in next week and says, well, you got co-officing space here, so that we want to open a law firm on the first floor. We don't want to break that where we have that rule of no first floor offices. So that was really what I was pushing back.
Great, thank you.
And just so I understand the sequence kind of events, so the last plan commission meeting, I think, was early November. Then the comprehensive plan was adopted. And the comprehensive plan
That's right.
recommends maintaining a prohibition on first floor office uses
That's
in the
correct.
Central Business District. And then the village board kind of disapproved of the retail for all the reasons just stated. And then it came back to us. And then we look at this floor plan, and I think most people who look at that would say that that's an office floor plan. I mean, that's a lot of offices, right? So it just, I'm just trying to make sure the sequence.
You have the timing correct.
More comments, questions?
I have a question. So the village code requires, is it the first 25 feet to be retail?
So for co-working in conjunction with retail sales, it is the majority of the storefront width must be devoted exclusively to retail sales to a depth within the store of not less than an average of 25 feet.
Okay.
So they do comply with those requirements for the special use, as in the zoning code. It also states that it cannot be within 600 feet of another co-working facility that's on the first floor in conjunction with retail sales. That text amendment was an application by brick and mortar back in 2021, but they got their original approval.
So, but I think the key legally, when you evaluate this, is not whether or not they meet that requirement. They do. They would not be allowed to be here, even applying, unless they met that requirement. So the real question is whether, as proposed, co-working with the retail sales, whether it meets your special use standards. And that's the question, not whether it's, 25 feet depth or 30 feet. It's whatever is proposed. Does it meet your standards that are required for a special use? The way that they described it, the way that they've proposed it in their application.
And then to staff, obviously the first floor is not desirable for office space, what we're discussing. How many blocks over would a first floor be appropriate?
You mean for first floor office use, which zoning districts allow for it? So the West End zoning district allows for first floor office use.
It's closer to downtown, closer to restaurants. How about behind the garage?
There are a couple C1 zoning properties that are east of 6th Avenue that are not C1CR that would allow for first floor office use. The medical office building that's right across the street from here is not going to look at the And then the C3 on South Grange Road, and of course the medical district by the hospital.
Well,
That's a first floor office.
pretty far away.
So really, it's only in the core of the central business district, which is generally, from 6th Avenue over to Ashland, and then from Cossett to Ogden Avenue. It's really limited.
More comments, more questions, more thoughts?
So I have a thought. It's just thought of this. I mean, clearly the comprehensive plan doesn't favor this. But I think maybe we have to look at this different characterization, perhaps. It's not me opening my law office on the first floor of this and having it there for 20 years with only my clients coming and going. The idea is it's open to anyone who wants to use the space, and so there could be multiple people coming in, going, much like the workout place for women. There's all different people coming in. That's not a retail in the back. I've been in there. How do we characterize it? Is it an office in the traditional sense? No, I don't think so. Does it provide maybe moving into the next phase of how people work, where it's more of almost like a retail office space? And I know there is no such thing, but you're buying the office space for that 3 hours that you want to be there, and then you move on to the next one. So that's just my thought.
I was having a similar thought, in that it does seem like it's an office space, but it's also a service.
Right.
Right, so it's providing the use as a service because it's more high volume.
Right.
As opposed to a fixed 20-year lease. Yeah, fixed 20-year lease.
Right.
So So seems like a hybrid. I'm kind of torn because on the one hand, it's clearly offices, but on the other hand, it's a more retail aspect to an office. And then I just thought too, I think the analogy to like a Starbucks and a Target doesn't really make a lot of sense, because that's clear retail within retail. And this would be more retail within office, maybe service. But so I don't know if I'm totally about that. It just seems like it could be disjointed. It also seems like disjointed. Like the retail has nothing to do with the service that's being offered. Like, the Brazilian wax place, they provide products that relate to the service they provide. Same with the spa or whatever it is, the workout, the stretch lab. All the retail is kind of connected to the service that's being provided. Whereas, it could be like your law firm and butcher shop. It's like, it doesn't make like it's not connected really. But although I actually like the concept, it's the location relative to where, the zoning, dealing with the comprehensive needs. So I'm a little torn in. Would love to hear everybody else's thoughts.
So, and I just want to make one more comment about the retail thing. So speaking as someone who works full-time downtown at my own office, I never get to go to the farmer's market. So the idea of having a place where I can go on the weekend and check out some of the offerings that might be available at the farmer's market that's appealing to me. So, and that's something that I don't get normally.
Under the remand that was given to us, it puts us in a somewhat different place than usual in making a subjective interference, if you will, to the idea of review. But on the other hand, if you have the ability to say, and we discussed this, the objective analysis of the square footage and the location and the layout and so forth is one thing. The other is a viability, which was somewhat specific to the remand. And the thing that struck me, and it's purely something that I wouldn't normally decide that I had to impose my thoughts on, is telling a business how I think their business judgment was. But if I had to make an analysis of and we discussed this indirectly when you talked about the law firm with the butcher shop, it's the items that we're talking about having available in the retail space seem far more suited to a much more broader facility with many other objects and food and facilities, and especially given the fact that there are many other options available within the immediate area. And I hate to say it, but I'd have to say that if I had to make a judgment, isolating the retail aspect of this, I'm not convinced that it's a viable option in terms of being to sustain itself, unless I am so far out of the mainstream that I don't understand how that it can support the activity with that particular product selection, given the options. But that's not wholly part of our charge here. But part of our charge is to determine whether we believe it's a viable option.
I guess I don't totally agree with that. I generally, like you said originally, I really never try to determine if whatever the applicant is presenting, if it's viable.
Exactly.
Because it's not my business; it's their business. And if they're willing to invest in it, okay. But in this particular case, I find that the co-working probably is very viable and profitable. And I think that retail in that front would not necessarily get any attention. Because why? Why bother? It's 600 square feet. If it's floundering, they got to keep it open anyways to make the money on the co-working. So I wouldn't see that being a big focus to make that successful. They have to keep it, but I don't picture that as being a huge successful business.
The other part of that aspect, though, is the charge for the benefit of the community.
Well, that's what is kind of lacking.
Yeah.
The betterment for the community is basically providing the co-working.
Right.
But
So-
is that good for where that location is?
Exactly.
That's my
Which the other aspect is, what other options are available to provide that particular?
I believe the applicant owns the building, so the question of going somewhere else is
Well, but then on the other hand, that is not part of the judgment
yeah, I understand.
in terms of alternate facilities. I know at least one person who owns many facilities in downtown Grange, who has many options in terms of, and that's been discussed at times like that. Why not over there? So it is a very broad analysis that we're dealing with here.
Commissioner O'Connor, I'd like to hear you chime in, please.
Yeah, so this is very non-traditional, but who am I to say it's not going to work? The entrepreneur part of me, you know what? Let them take a shot at this. There's that part of it. So, but would it help to go through the special use standards quickly just to see if there's anything that flags?
Sure.
Because that really is, I want to get away from subjectivity first.
Great, okay, so you have the deliberation factors, if you're all following along, it's page 8 of the handout there. That's correct, right? Okay, and the first one, let's go with public benefit. Take a quick read.
Maybe I'll speak on this one. To Julie's point on the velocity of people and just the traffic that it would bring, I think that's a good thing. I think that would be a problem.
For not just the co-working, but potential spending money in the town, is it correct? Okay, all right. Commissioner Schwartz, your thought on that?
I mean, I suppose there is the potential for
It makes sense. I just, there's no real facts here. Right. Support it, but it does make sense.
I mean, it would seem, based upon the evidence that they've presented in their application at the other locations that they have this, they've been very successful. And I think the places that they have opened those villages, I think, have been happy with them being there, at least based on what they're telling us. So we can take that as some evidence of a public benefit based upon where they've already opened these types of facilities.
I guess I would have to go to the other audience member who discussed the sales tax part. It is a large building that I don't really know what kind of tax we would get on co-working, if anything. So
It'd be nominal.
yeah, so I mean there's that.
And I guess we only get to these factors if we are satisfied that it satisfies the first standard that no special use permit can be recommended or granted unless it's established that it complies with the code plan and purpose. And that's where we get into office use in the central business district. All right. It was literally passed less than 3 months ago. Where it said no office use there. And then the board just basically reiterated that. And I heard trustees saying, they reiterated the position that office use on the first floor has generally been rejected. And they reiterated that they've kind of a preference that it continue to be rejected. And mine listened to them.
And I just wish that the comprehensive plan was not silent on non-traditional office uses.
Right.
So it's a little subtlety.
Yeah, so I'm not sure we have a clear winner on the public benefit at this point.
Well, and the public benefit too, I asked the question because, so the most foot traffic is going to be during the day, during the week. Minimal, it sounds like, during the weekend or any. So I think that's like a minimal, so I think that minimizes some of the public benefit. I mean, on the other hand, I guess it frees up parking at night.
I hear
On
you.
the weekend.
I know what you're saying.
All right, and then, we briefly discussed the alternative locations. Maybe that's a realistic expectation, and not really sure. And if we identified any adverse impacts, is there any mitigation of those? So I guess I'd like to, before we go any further, kind of like get a feeling in general. Commissioner Wenting?
If I may, it's a conflict, and I think we've heard the discussion of this is a benefit in one end of the discussion and a deviation from the intent of the comprehensive plan on the other end. And the obvious question is that if we're looking at it, and if you had to come up with a deliberation factor, is which is the deciding factor in terms of where you focus. And I think that the benefit is more demonstrable from a business point of view to the community, whereas perhaps, and this is only the suggestion to think about, I'm willing to hear alternative ideas, is that the general statement of the comprehensive plan is a guideline as opposed to providing the specificity which you very kindly noted, that there wasn't a determination as to how to shape that meaning. So at that point, I'd have to say that if it works, we should probably consider reapproval. The question is, do we believe that it's consistent with our objectives? I know I just confused it even more.
Okay, it's all right. Yeah. We like the challenge. Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm struggling with this, but I do feel it's not completely against the comprehensive plan because it's non-traditional office space. But I was there in 2005 and we adopted one of the first comprehensive plans. It's been a great guide for us. Zoning Commission too. It's been very helpful. So it would pain me to go against that. But I think there's a reason where I can get comfortable with this. Plus, I like the fact that they came back. They put some thought into this and didn't just throw something together. So I like the fact that they're digging in and they believe in this. So that persuades me too.
Fair enough. Commissioner Schwartz?
Yeah, I'm honestly torn because I think I think the comprehensive plan provides pretty clear guidance on no office, but I agree that there's probably some gray area that is probably was not thought about, but at the same time, hundreds of hours with professionals and community members were spent on that comprehensive plan that just concluded. And people who were at that meeting know about this kind of office space and probably use this kind of office space. I'm guessing we had 2 of these places here during the consideration of that comprehensive plan, and it was decided to include this in the Grange forward. And then the village board had the benefit of that and spoke pretty harshly against retail, office use in this area. But at the same time, I don't know that I've heard a discussion on how can this office use be recharacterized as more of like a gym membership or like the stretch lab, or it's like kind of a high volume rental use of offices, which is completely different than your law firm has been here for 20 years, right? So that can, I want to hear more from Commissioner Egan.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in the same boat here because there is definitely a conflict with the comprehensive plan. But I think, we just kind of reinvigorated our comprehensive plan. Maybe we need to continue to think outside the box in order to move forward. One difference, I think, in the prohibition in the office use, prohibiting it in the CBD, is that I'm picturing, the State Farm office on Burlington, right across from the station, where the office is right there in the front. At least in this, the office isn't right in the front. It's not, the guy sitting at his desk right in the front. It's just like all of the other spaces on the Grange Road, the stretch lab and the workout place. It's got retail in the front and then their business in the back, which is really the moneymaker. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of people buying the workout clothes when I go to the workout place. So, it has that different character of it's not just an office, it does have the retail component in the front. Does that get me to the point that it makes me feel comfortable? I don't know, but I do agree with Pete that they've put a lot of effort into this, and I'm kind of intrigued by the concepts that they did come up with for the retail, because it doesn't exist. Who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, this is going to be the way. Everybody, all these small businesses, all these people creating things in their own home are going to want some kind of co-retail space that they can sell stuff like this, much like the farmer's market, but on a daily basis. Who knows? This may be like the start of the newest trend. I would hate to shut it down because we're tied to, even though we did just revise it and spent many hours on it, I would hate to shut it down just because of that. So that's, but again, still, I'm in the boat with you guys.
Okay, so to be devil's advocate on this one, there's always things to consider, and always things that could be changed. Is there anything about this that would make it more acceptable? Even more so than what they've done so far?
Less office.
So, yeah. No, I don't think so. To me, the idea of changing sort of how it's viewed, and maybe this is where I would have gone if I was the petitioner, is to say this is not traditional office use. This is a hybrid that maybe was. I don't even know if it was discussed. Jay, do you remember this? Do you remember this being a subject of discussion, like how office sharing space? I mean, I wasn't at all the meetings, but I don't remember necessarily this scenario coming up.
I don't recall that this specific use was listed. Obviously, it had been previously considered in 2021, right? So it's not as though it was a foreign unknown concept, but I think the directive in the comprehensive plan is specifically about maintaining that focus on retail and related kinds of uses in the central business district.
Right, and I think retail has two components I think they were trying to drive. One is sales tax. The other is foot traffic. And to an extent, there is some foot traffic. I mean, it's not maybe as much foot traffic as a store that's open until 8 o'clock every night and all weekend long. But does generate foot traffic, and I do think should be drawing people to the village to go to Blackberry Market or Starbucks or whatever. But so I do think it provides that potential benefit that is kind of consistent with what the comprehensive plan was trying to achieve.
I'll throw this out, and some are going to hate this. But when we do some of our large developments, we request compensating amenities because we're giving them a large piece of the Grange, which is also what we're doing in this case. Is there some kind of compensating amenity that we could request? And I'm specifically talking money. You know, is there, to make up for some sales tax that we're not getting, is there a per person usage tax? I know this is very dangerous. It's certainly not popular. But I just hate the idea of the village giving up a nice property that maybe it could be a restaurant again, maybe not, I don't know. But you know, the village is getting very little solid financial benefit from this. Yes, there may be more traffic, maybe. Sure. Yes, I'd love to hear from the attorney at this point, now that I suggested this.
My concern is, us sticking with the standards.
Okay.
And in terms of compensating amenities, our code definitely calls for it with planned developments. But it is not something that we call for a special use.
Okay.
The one thing that I think maybe this will help focus a little on the discussion is we've been focusing on the comprehensive plan. But that same provision of the standards that talks about the comprehensive plan is also consistent with the purposes of this code, meaning the zoning code. And so looking at, and I think this gets back to where the village board was at, the use that we're talking about is co-working in conjunction with retail sales. And so I think from my takeaway, and I will speak from my perception of the village board discussion, was not so much the word, viability of the business as it relates to will it last, will it not. It was the idea of, is this a co-working space? And the only reason that acai bowls were proposed in the last round was to find a way to get around the problem of the code. And it's just, subterfuge, right? Is it really a retail sales use? Or is it co-working when they put something in the front that is not really about retail sales? The discussions, think of the idea of if you just put a pack of gum at the counter, I think we'd all agree that that's not retail sales. Not with the purpose of our code provision that says co-working in conjunction with retail sales is a special use. So I think the one way to look at it, our code purpose is to think about, now that there's been changes to the proposal, it's not just acai bowls, it is now all these other retail ideas, is do you think it fulfills the purpose of the zoning code, where this in 2021 it was created to have co-working, but only if it had the retail sales component. And is that what they're proposing, do you think meets that purpose? So there's the comprehensive plan piece, totally valid to look at. And then there's the intent and the purpose of our zoning code. And is that being met? And I don't know if that helps. But I think that's how you may want to focus some of this distinction, the struggle between the comp plan and what does it mean? Is it just a guideline document? Are we wedded to it? How do we interpret it? Also focus on the zoning code.
I guess what I'm hearing though is we're more worried about the gradient of retail sales, how much is appropriate, and whether this meets that appropriate amount of retail sales to get co-working. Is that basically it?
Well, whether you think this meets the purpose of this provision that says you have to do co-working in conjunction with retail sales. And think about the language was in conjunction with, not co-working that happens to have some retail component, or you can fight with the words and can start to see, is there a purpose there? And that's for you to interpret, and do you think this meets that purpose?
Trustee Thompson, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of the trustees, especially in follow-up conversations, in the original proposal, they really liked the fact that actually what these guys have brought back now is premiering new businesses, premiering up-and-coming businesses, and having that retail shop for them. The thing that they were upset about was there was going to be no more special events to really push those vendors, so we got that going. So you could go to the farmer's market there and sit down, because that's the same problem. And I work from home, I still can't get there. But so one suggestion may be that they somehow figure out how they open that space back, because the board is really big on space. That maybe you put a barn door, sliding door in right there where the swing door is in the retail space, so that we can reintroduce the special events. He's talked about pushing special events and getting them going, but there needs to be enough space to make it really look like there's a special event instead of 5 people crammed in the shelf area. There's no. So I think that's something you could look at that I think makes the board more excited about bringing back the original proposal.
If we have Mr. Ness, pipe in here, please.
Thank you. So I'll share the, maybe Chair, could you zoom out just a touch?
Oh, sure.
That'd be awesome. So I'll show you a few things of how it all comes together synergistically, right? So the door and the window here, this has the ability to be an accordion, right? So it can fold in exactly as you said. We have the specs, happy to share them. The idea of the cafe up here is so during those events, this becomes what you're referencing, with the ability to put stanchions here. Also, depending on the size, this allows for the boardroom to be utilized in back. And so everything's on electronic access. So the people who are having these meetings, right, they have electronic access during their designated times. So they have access to the entire space. So the founders' talks and the community at large events that we're speaking about is for us today, right, transparently unknown, right? Are there going to be 2 people, 22? 200 would freak us all out, so let's not say that. But how many people are going to be there? And so this has the ability to flex into that as we go. And there's even the opportunity on the upper level. There's a huddle room up there as well. So depending on 4, 8, 16, or a much larger event, all of those spaces can be utilized. And then the idea would be, more than likely, those events are taking place on Saturdays and Sundays, which is great because, as I mentioned, right, slower in the shared office space, but that allows for us to then take over these spaces and bring those people to the downtown.
So if the retail is 650 square feet, the cafe another 300 square feet, something like that, close to 1,000 feet of entertaining space or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. Plus the boardroom is a few hundred square feet as well. Conference room is probably 185 to 200, and those can all flex.
So this is something that I had not considered as a concern of the board. So that's interesting. Thank you.
In the last plan, didn't it have the barn door that's in the
So we had a garage door.
the first plan, right? Okay, because I wondered where that went, because that to me would be something that would change my mind if it was more open, so.
Yeah, we had a garage door that went into a conference room.
Okay.
The idea behind that was that the whole store could then grow in nature. After many conversations back and forth, it was deemed that this was a better version because the conference room was seen as not being very cohesive. And so which is fine. So we enlarge everything and it works. And so, but again, this can be one of those sliding doors that completely opens so that the whole space can become one.
Okay, great, thank you. Given that potential adjustment, does that ease more people's thoughts? Need commissioners as I need people?
I think it gets to the point of, two separate businesses. Well, now there's a way to kind of unify that purpose. But it's still, I still struggle with Ms. Reardon's comments about the comprehensive plan, and that's just going to be a subject of call.
Does that help out? Or if you guys concerned? Good.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wente, I can see you thinking.
Is that what that is? Yes, it moves the needle. I think the relationship aspect, we'd spoken before about a number of facilities that we've approved that had related retail to their function. Obviously, the retail in the front, in and of itself, is not related to the function of the remainder of the facility. But to be able to use that retail space plus adjacent space for function relating to business opens the door a little wider, I think.
At this point, it seems like if we have any adjustments to what is proposed, we should call that out. And then we have to discuss the other two items, which I think we've pretty much done in our previous meetings, but we probably should reiterate it. I suppose, the site plan approval and the design review permit. I think nothing has changed from the design on the outside, I believe. The site plan, obviously nothing outside. Is there any concerns on those two? Okay, good. All right, so let's look at the conditions that are listed here. If we have to add any extra conditions, and at some point in time we'll have to get a motion and then actually take a vote and see how everyone feels. Okay, so I'm just going to go through them and read them out loud so you get a yay or nay on each of these. Space on the first floor of the subject property is devoted exclusively to retail sales, must be maintained in the area designated on the approved site plan.
Yes.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. The retail area must be open to the general public and not just users of the co-working areas on the subject property.
Yes.
Good, okay. Just chime in if you guys have a problem with it. The retail area must be staffed by employees that solely engage in retail sales and not employees that are responsible for supervising or renting out the co-working space on the subject property.
Yes.
Okay. If the retail sales ceases to operate for retail sales, the use of the subject property for co-working must also cease. Okay. Retail area must be open to the public for the retail sales for a minimum of 6 days a week and at least 8 hours per day on those 6 days. The retail area must be kept fully stocked at all times with product for resale. That seems a little odd. Who defines fully stocked? Adequately stocked?
You know it when you see it.
Basically anything. Attorneys instead of fully, is there anything you want? Leave it?
Yeah.
Okay. An emergency button that directly connects to the police department must be installed and maintained in the common areas, I guess on both floors, I'm assuming. One floor?
One button.
One button? Okay. I'm sure the staff would work with that at the police. They would get what they want. Special use permit is issued only to the applicant and is the sole benefit of the applicant and is non-transferable. What else do we need?
Their common ownership, but it's.
Yeah, we should add that.
Do you mean of the retail and the?
Right, like it's a common owner, it can't be sublet out.
It was not listed amongst the conditions because that is part of their proposal this time, as opposed to last time when you saw it, you had to make it a condition because they were.
Okay, so it's already
It's
been.
people in.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need to say anything about the opening the door? What would be the meeting area?
That should be maintained.
That's what, so is it that way as proposed, or we need to add?
So
As a
there's a
condition.
couple different considerations that you could look at for conditions. One is the physical design of the space and requiring that the door be, some kind of full opening.
Into the
We'll figure out how to wordsmith that.
Okay. I'll just note down.
The other could be a condition related to the operation of that space, right? In one of the earlier versions, we had certain requirements about the minimum number of these founder talks or special events to happen throughout the year. The applicant said they don't really know exactly what that demand is going to be. If you wanted to place a condition on the operation of the space, it could be that the space has to be made available to retail product, featuring a retail product, retail events with some regular cadence. And then that wouldn't necessarily mean that they happen for sure, but that the space wouldn't be otherwise rented into co-working uses.
Lost you. Are you trying to limit only relating to retail sale items?
Well, what I'm saying is one of the earlier proposals said that there had to be like once a month special events, right? You could do a condition like that again. Or knowing that they're working with a variety of different independent entrepreneurs, that the space being made available for that purpose with some regular cadence, whether that's monthly or whatever, the commission determines really provides that blending that you're looking for, that in conjunction with retail sales. And then it would be more unknown about whether they would in fact have the events because it would be reliant on those entrepreneurs that they're featuring within the retail space to take advantage of that opportunity.
Could you just have a co-working event?
No, I think what I was suggesting is if you want some requirements about the operation of that open cafe space, or the conference room, or the boardroom, as the applicant described, it would be used occasionally for retail product promotion. Okay, so we could say that a condition would be right, that the cafe and the boardroom would be.
And not seconded to attendance by members who rent co-working space. So if somebody is a purely a retail customer, they can come to an event in the cafe without having to buy a membership and be working there every day of the week.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha.
So they'd be available for retail events.
Okay.
Once per
Events
month.
feature retail products.
Yeah.
Did we want to limit or give a specific number of occurrences?
Or can we just leave it open, that it just has to be available?
I'm okay with it. Are you okay with it? Okay. Terry, did you get that? The gist of that?
So that they're made available, but not any sort of, for retail. So most of the time they would not be available for retail because they would be designated for co-working. Right. So is there some minimum amount of time that you want them to be made available for retail events?
I would be unable to define that, frankly. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys anyway?
I don't know.
I couldn't put limitations that I'm totally not aware of. Anything else?
How are we going to freeze that?
Excuse me?
How will we freeze that requirement?
I think we're allowing.
I just said common areas and cafe available for retail use.
For retail events to
Events,
feature retail products, is that sort of the idea?
Do we want to specify anything about the method of access or just open the door?
Yeah.
Just,
Okay, anything else we would need? So we're always at that, is there anything else in general with this application we need to talk about? Because we're pretty much at the making the motion point.
And there was consensus that the conditions also include the door between the retail showroom and cafe area being
Articulating or
fully
wide opening.
Wide opening.
Yes.
Okay.
Full test. Okay, looking for someone to present the motion so that we can do it.
So I would motion to approve the application for the special use permit, site plan approval and design review. With those conditions that we just listed off, I believe there's 8 that were written, and then we added 2 more. The common area is available for retail use, and the door between the retail and the cafe open so that it would facilitate that. That's it.
Is there a second? Also. Okay, Ben moved and second. At this point, I'll give you one more chance to discuss. Is there any other? We have the motion on the table. It's been moved and seconded. We'll be going to a vote any second. Does anyone have a last comment?
I think it was a thoughtful discussion. That's what I was saying.
Okay, good. Without further ado, may we have a roll call board, please?
Egan.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
Wenting.
Aye.
And Pace.
Nay.
4-1 motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful. If you could please summarize for the applicant what happens next.
Sure. So, as you know, the planning commission is a recommending body, so their recommendation will be advanced to the village board. We'll be presenting ordinance for the board's consideration, and we would anticipate that would be presented to the board at their April 14th meeting.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Okay, so this is near the end of the meeting. Is there any further comments, questions, things going on?
The only other thing I want to note for you, we are expecting to have an April meeting. We have 2 additional applications that have come in related to short-term rentals in the downtown, like Airbnb.
Great.
And
Office rentals?
And we kicked off the South of Grange Road corridor study with CMAC last week. So more information to come on that, but really they're in that information gathering stage.
Can we have the next meeting at the newly opened wooden panel soon?
That would be nice.
That would be nice. Is it happening
Maybe
soon?
after the meeting, we could all stop by. They are anticipating being open by the end of the month.
They will. Excellent. Good. Okay. Sounds good. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?